Big Seance Podcast, episode 123. My coverage of the 2018 Haunted America Conference.
Welcome to the Big Seance Podcast. I'm Patrick Keller of BigSeance.com, and this is a place for an open discussion on all things paranormal, but specifically topics like ghosts and hauntings, paranormal research, spirit communication, psychics and mediums, and life after death. So basically, anything that pops up in my paranormal world. The candles are already lit, so you might as well come on in and join the seance.
A week or so ago, I again attended the Haunted America Conference in Alton, Illinois. I got to see several of you there, and some of you I finally met for the first time. It was also my first time having a table set up in the vendor room. You'll find photos of my setup and some of the paranerds I caught up with in the Big Seance Parlor on Facebook. I had lots of fun putting my table together, and now I'll be ready to go on the road for more conferences in the future. If this is your first time listening and I met you at the conference, I want to thank you for giving it a listen, and it was awesome to meet you. Next year's conference is already on the calendar. It'll be June 21st and 22nd, 2019. I've got to jump into my coverage, and I'm going to try not to break in much because I have so many interviews from speakers and vendors who attended the conference. Before we blow the candles out at the end, though, I'll of course give shout-outs to some of my awesome Patreon supporters and parlor guests. So here we go. Let's pour some tea for fun, shall we? My totally rad table neighbors in the vendor room were Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot, who together hosts a great paranormal podcast called See You on the Other Side. And the See You on the Other Side podcast. And we'll talk to them, and I'll let them explain their podcast a little bit. But the coolest thing I like about their podcast is they have an original song at the end of every show, which is super cool. So tell us a little about the band and the show.
Absolutely. So the See You on the Side podcast was based around the fact that we were already, when we were going to different venues and we were hanging out in these different clubs, a lot of times theaters have a long history of hauntings and weird stuff, and to keep ourselves interested while we were waiting to go on stage, we would talk to the staff and talk to the managers and try to find haunted stories about it. And eventually it just got to the fact that we should be talking about this more often, and we started a podcast and got into the paranormal, and we were already writing weird songs. So, I mean, a lot of people can write love songs, but not a lot of people write love songs about werewolves.
And just to give some context, the band is called Sunspot, and we've been together for a couple decades. And so from touring the country, a lot of rock venues happen to be located in really old, dingy buildings, which have frequently stories. So that's why a lot of the places that we end up tend to be kind of cool for that.
Like some bands tour arenas, we tour dives.
And it turns out there's a lot of them across America.
Yeah, so. And it turns out that those dives have haunted stories that the new named after your local bank arena does not have. So that's a fun way to learn more about the town and to feel more connected to the place by knowing haunted stories about the bars you're going to play in. We've been having a great time.
And I know just from listening to your show that you guys, it's not just the venues you go to. You guys have been, on my podcast, we call each other paranerds. So you guys have been paranerds for a long time, huh?
Thanks.
Absolutely. In fact, Wendy and I, we first started working on the band. We met in college. One of our first conversations was about alien abduction. And so it didn't take long to realize.
Bonding experience.
Yeah, it didn't take long to realize that this is going to be something we'll be talking about till we're dead.
Yeah, and as you know, not just anyone is really eager to just step on board into that conversation of alien abduction.
Hey, how's it going? So, aliens.
Being probed.
So, right.
And you guys are from Madison, Wisconsin, so that's cool. Tell us where to find the show.
OthersidePodcast.com is our website, and then we're in all of the podcast players and iTunes. So if you just search for "See You on the Other Side," you'll see our little logo with the eyeball staring at you.
And you can listen to our latest song. SunspotUniverse.com is the place to go for that.
Very cool. And they actually opened the conference playing this year and last year, and you guys might play again, I guess, right?
Right here, and you'll have front row.
We brought the PA, and we'll be rocking between speakers and having fun.
Probably about the time, since I slept 4 hours, probably about the time I'm falling asleep. You guys will have to wake me up.
A little. We'll play a lively beat.
We'll point the bass drum in your direction.
You guys rock. Thank you.
Thanks for being a great table neighbor.
Big Seance. I'm on the cover of Fango. I'm in the Grand Guignol. I'm a famous monsters late night picture show. I want you to let it go. I'm on the cover of Fango. I'm in the Grand Guignol. I'm a famous monsters late night picture show.
I'm sitting here talking to Lisa, the other half of the whole Troy Taylor production team doing the Haunted America conference. I just wanted to chat with her and see how things are going. This is the second day. This is Saturday. I wanted to see if she was, still alive, if she'd slept in a couple of days. So how's the conference going?
So far, everything's going great. Our turnout is incredible, and these are some of the nicest people. We're just a bunch of weirdos, but these are the nicest people in the whole wide world, so I really look forward to it every year.
I've always talked about how the first time I came here, the only conferences I'd ever been to are music teacher conferences. And that's a whole different kind of nerd, And the first thing I noticed is the community, how this conference, and a lot of people have been coming to this conference for years, like Barb Heiser, pretty much every conference, right? It is a community that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, everyone's Facebook posts when they leave today will say that was so good to see so many friends and make new ones. And everyone does that and looks forward to that every year, myself included. It's really great.
Yeah, and so Troy's here. He's got all of his 11,700 books. And and there's shirts, and they do a cool raffle, and it's so very cool. Like Sherri Break is talking right now in the other room, and I'm in the events room, and now I'm going around kind of stalking people and bugging people for interviews. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just have fun. Come back and see me later and see if I'm still alive.
I will. I told her that later on, around lunchtime, is when I'm probably going to start nodding off because I slept 4 hours last night. But there you go. You rock. Thank you. I know a lot of my peeps. I'm talking to Cody Beck, who is like the executive producer, editor of American Hauntings Podcast. But I wanted to chat with him really quick and give him a chance to talk about kind of maybe what's coming up on the podcast and where to find it and just anything he wants to talk to me about today.
Thanks for stopping by. As you mentioned, I am executive producer, writer. I'm also the intern. I'm the copy guy. I do all the gamut, the glorious stuff and the not so glorious stuff. So Troy and I have been doing this podcast for the last year, a little bit over that, and we're at about 25 episodes now. We just wrapped up a series on the Limp family out of St. Louis, and we're still doing some St. Louis episodes. I think we're going to do The Exorcist House and Jefferson Barracks, and then I'm not sure what else he has in mind, but I know he's got a few books on St. Louis alone, so there's a lot of material to work with there. And then I don't know what we're going to do after that. We might move to Chicago. We might do just a Midwest in general. We've talked about doing it instead of by city, doing something by like themes. So we do one season just on like cemeteries, and we do another season on poltergeists or haunted objects or what. So I don't know. We don't have anybody telling us what to do, so I'm just going to do whatever I want. So it's great. And you can find it at AmericanHauntingsPodcast.com. We got some free stickers now. We just launched a Patreon for American Hauntings in general. So, the podcast is just one small piece of this bigger universe of American Hauntings. So it's books, it's T-shirts, it's tours. It's a lot of really fun stuff. It's events, conferences like this. So, go check it out. And, come hang out.
Woo! And the cool thing about podcasting, like you said, is that there is no boss.
Yeah.
For podcasting,
and anybody can do it.
Yeah, and Troy's hardcore, so that's why you have a 6-part limp series.
It just kept going and going and going. So this time with the Exorcist House, I said, I don't even want to ask you how many it's going to be. Let's just go with it. And I mean, that guy, he would have done 12 episodes if he thought that people would listen.
And he'll never run out of content.
No,
he's got plenty to talk about.
It's great, and that's going to be some of our bonus stuff for Patreon on the podcast. Is going to be him telling stories from some of his other books that have nothing to do with Alton or St. Louis or anything. He's got, I see Sex and the Supernatural right now. I see The Devil in All His Works. So there's 2 I've read, and there were some of my favorites. There's a new one now, Disconnected from Death. And he's just going to talk about a lot of his random stuff, little side stories. So, check it out. It's AmericanHauntingsPodcast.com.
I thought you were doing April. So.
Well, I am going to.
Okay. All right.
So, this is here with Troy. I found him. He's like a crazy person running around, and so I decided I was going to grab him. So, quick soundbite. How's the day going, or the weekend going?
It's been fun. It's been a great weekend. One of the things I was just telling somebody I love about the conference is we get to...
I'm breaking in to tell you that at this point, my recorder had a brief brain fart for about a minute or so before picking back up again. Troy was telling me of how he loves the community that returns every year for the conference. And in the case of Barb Heiser, who Lisa and I mentioned a few minutes ago, she really has been to all 22 conferences. And there's always new paranerds who bravely give the conference a try every year, too. The community really is awesome, and I've tried to hit on that each year that I've covered it for you. Okay, now back to Troy.
It's kind of like my friend John Brill, who kind of helped us really kind of kick things off years ago when we were just starting out, and he came up with some ideas about the conference, and we do the same things every year in his honor, and we're all pretty sure he's around. I mean, really, and he'd be getting a great kick out of whatever we're doing, and so I think. I mean, don't tell Barb I said this because it sounds like I'm being really morbid about Barb, but I think she'll probably be around too. So,
you guys are always planning the next one pretty early, the next conference. So you've started. Do you have any sneak peeks of that?
No, I'm not telling you anything. All I will say is that we already have been doing some things this weekend, getting ready for next year already. So it'll be same weekend in June, that third, I believe, weekend, but right after Father's Day again. I don't remember the dates right now, but we're already set for next year, so we'll get it together.
Awesome, and give us the site.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, ghostconference.net.
And I already shoved a microphone in Cody's face, so we talked about the podcast and the 11-part limp series and all.
Isn't it? Yeah, well, and we haven't even gotten to The Exorcist yet. So, but we actually do have more stories in between. So we'll be back with non-limp St. Louis episodes in a couple weeks. So,
and you're never going to run out of content.
No. Oh, no. We'll just move on to another city. Once we've decided we've done enough St. Louis, that's the beauty of this thing. We have no plan. Say, I'll come up with the plan, and then 2 limp episodes turn into 3, and then turn into 4, then turn into 5. But that's why it's fun. As you know, that's why it's fun. I don't know where we'll go after this. We haven't talked about it yet, but I'm sure it'll be somewhere. So I'm envisioning a 7-part Resurrection Mary series in some point, or something, something like that. So yeah, it's going to be great. So.
Cool. Well, I'm loving the podcast and love the conference, so you rock. Thank you again.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Always good to see you.
I'm here with Jennifer Jones of The Dead History, and I am not aware of The Dead History, so I'm going to let her talk to you about what she's got here. She's got a cool-looking table and some T-shirts and some other things, some pendulums, it looks like. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so The Dead History is my blog. It focuses on the history behind hauntings and urban legends, so I like to dig through actual historical records and try to see how much of the legends are based in fact or the hauntings. And oftentimes I've found that the true stories of what happened are far more interesting than the legends that are surrounding places.
Very cool. How long have you been blogging?
I've been blogging since 2012.
That's when I started.
It's a great year to start. I've been investigating since about 2007. It got too much, and so I was like, I love history, I love paranormal, so I decided to step away from investigating and just focus on doing that.
So do you do a little bit of cemetery, like genealogy, too, some of that stuff?
Yeah, actually, my blog is kind of a mix of paranormal history and genealogy. I do some posts called posthumous profiles where I'll find interesting headstones and then I'll research the person and I'll do a blog post sharing about their life and, maybe interesting things that happened or if they died in a horrific manner. It's pretty morbid, but,
Some people love that, yeah.
Yeah.
So when are you starting a podcast then next?
Man, people have been asking me that. I don't know. Sometimes I think it'd be a lot easier to do a podcast than vlogging, but I have a real day job and it takes up so much time. So I don't know. Maybe.
Same here. Yeah. And I started blogging in 2012 and then 2014. I started doing the podcast. So maybe it's time. Yeah. I could even help you.
Sure. Did you give up blogging then?
My podcast is still housed at bigseance.com, but yeah, I don't do too much blogging. Once I put my energy, it's like my new baby, and all my hours now go to a podcast.
Yep.
So did you tell us where to find the blog?
You can find me at thedeadhistory.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
You rock.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Sheila and Melanie from Missouri State Penitentiary. All right, so I'm here with some folks from Missouri State Penitentiary, and I've been meaning to get to this place for years and still haven't gotten there. Tell us a little about Missouri State Pen.
Well, we started doing tours in 2009. We do ghost tours, we do history tours, we do hunts, we do overnights, both public and private. We do a lot of student tours during the school year. So we've progressed from our first year of 3,000 people to last year a little over 33,000.
And you've had some ghost shows show up at the Missouri State Pen, and that's cool. What's some of the history, a little bit of the history of Missouri State Penitentiary?
Well, it opened in 1836, the same week that the Alamo was being fought. So just to put it in perspective, our oldest housing unit on the property dates back to 1868, and it was still used as a housing unit up until 2004 when it was closed. So we've got a vast history, 168 continual years.
Who are some of the famous, I don't know, residents of the penitentiary?
Well, we had Pretty Boy Floyd. One of the more infamous was Sonny Liston, who came in as a teenager and left and became a world champion boxer. Probably one of our most well-known was James Earl Ray, was an escaped inmate from our facility for almost a year when the assassination of Martin Luther King took place.
And this is in Jefferson City, Missouri, right? Yes. And where can people find you, online?
Well, we've got a website. It's MissouriPenTours.com, and that is Missouri spelled out. We're also on Facebook under Missouri State Penitentiary. So just look us up.
You rock.
So cute. It's nice. So, yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Here we go.
So I'm here once again with Sarah Soderlund, a.k.a. Paranormal Sarah. And many of you probably follow her. I know she's been doing some really sweet live Facebook readings and things lately. I've sat in a few of those.
And she's also got, this is a new book that you've got.
This is my second baby. Yep.
And I interviewed her and shoved a microphone in her face last year, and I just wanted to get an update and see what's gone on since then.
Okay, well, since last year, it's been a whole year. No, this new book, it's kind of cool. Last year, I was really kind of pushing Haunted by the Abyss, and I've decided to take that out.
Great book.
Thank you so much. I'm actually writing a second right now. So, but this is one I co-wrote with David Jacobs, and it's called Quantum Parapsychology, and it's how science is proving the paranormal. And it's really fun. It's almost as if you can imagine, so me from the parapsychology spectrum, and Dave is an amateur physicist. He works for the Department of Energy and is really a mathematical-minded man. So you have a man and a woman, more subjective and objective, sitting down over a cigar talking about, how is it that ghosts go through walls? How is it that physics, uses entanglement or the double slit experiment, and how does that pertain to psychology? And so we just we cover everything from old hag syndrome to ectoplasm, and we try and cover it in a skeptical way and in a scientific way, and just really for people like me who hate math and statistics but still want to stay up to date on the quantum science and the amazing things in the science world right now.
So you really get deep. You go there.
We kind of go there. We kind of put our fingers on our toes, and we go up to our elbows and our knees at least in it. And it's an easy read for people that hate science but love science. Do you know what I mean? Where you don't want to be talking about the jargon of null factors and that kind of crap, but you want to know. And so we're very proud of it. It was one of those things we tried to get it published, and finally it happened, and we birthed it, and it's been a great hit. Grant Wilson's going to be covering it in his podcast coming up. And
wow, shut up.
Shut up. Yeah, he's got a new podcast, and so we're really excited about it. But yeah, so here we are at Haunted America, and not only with you, but with all of these really cool, amazing people here. I'm doing something a little unique this year, a little different, It was one of those where I thought, man, I always have this blank table in my book, and I feel kind of like an idiot. You're standing there, everyone's got all these cool knickknacks and curiosities, and I just have a blank table. And a girlfriend of mine, she goes antique shopping and has a little Etsy store, and she said, I have a whole room full of stuff that never sells, and I swear it's because just where they came from, the stories, people just don't like them. Uh-huh. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe kind of like a reportedly haunted. And she was like, well, some of them are, I think, but let's take a look. So we go, and I said, you know what, Kim, I got to have these items. Let's see. I want to put them out, and at the table, it's kind of my own guinea pig of consumerism experimentation. You have an item that speaks to you, you buy it, and then I follow up on an email with a survey, ask you how you feel. I ask you some kind of non-suggestive questions about it, and then I send you a whole... it's predated, so I'm not bullshitting you. Uh-huh. But all of the history, some of them come with EVPs, some of them come with audio files, some of them come with photos, histories, family letters. And it's been really cool in the kind of hindsight of psychometry, of what people are gravitate towards what items. So it's my little psychoanalysis of people, just so I can have some table space. But it's growing into something that I truly, really love. You
truly are a nerd, and I love it.
It's a problem.
Sing something for us really quickly.
If you only had a brain. That's what I'm thinking of.
I love that just popped in your head. If you...
some guy last night was walking around with a darn Wizard of Oz monkey with feathers and a crystal ball, and he was standing right over there. And I'm pissed that he got it before I did, because that thing was cool. So it's been haunting me all morning. I'm thinking of that monkey, Wizard of Oz. We're here kind of close to Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, somewhere. Where are we anyway? We're in Illinois.
We're in Illinois.
We're in haunted Illinois, that's right.
Yeah, and we're from kind of the same hood, a little bit, Kansas City-ish.
Kansas City-ish, that's where I'm born and raised. KC-Mo, that's Tech 9. Yeah, that's where I'm from. Barbecue, snob. That's me.
Where do people find you?
Well, this is a fun story. You can actually still go to sarahsoderlund.com. I have a hacker that I've threatened, and he's holding that site hostage for me, but it does still link you to me, which is wonderful. And you can find me at, thank you, hacker, if you're still holding that tight, TheParanormalSarah@gmail.com. Or if you just Google Paranormal Sarah, you'll find me. You'll find me out there in the Matrix.
You rock.
You rock.
So I'm here with Luke Naliborski, right? Am I
That's
a pro
right.
on that?
Yep.
Awesome. And Luke does, you still do some tours and stuff for Troy, right?
Yep.
And you've led a couple of tours and investigations that I've been on, but you're also an author and you have a really cool store. So just kind of tell us all the nerdy things that you have your hand in.
Sure. Yeah, my store's called I Had That, and I sell vintage toys, records, a lot of horror toys because I love that. Of course, sell my ghost books as well as some of Troy's ghost books.
And that's right here in Alton, right?
No, actually, it's in Belleville, Illinois. Yeah, and we're right on the main street, old historic building, built in 1860s. Real cool vibe to the building, and we do feel that the building is haunted as well. You know, it could be wishful thinking, but when I'm not the only one who's experienced things, then maybe it's not. So I really feel that it is haunted.
What are some of the cooler items at the store?
I have a really big collection of living dead dolls, and you really can't find those anywhere anymore. Places like Spencer's used to carry them. They don't carry them anymore. Toys R Us carried some, and of course we know what's unfortunately going on with Toys R Us. Living dead dolls are cool. I got a lot of pop figures, which are hot right now. I probably got about 350 different pop figures. For the vintage stuff, I've probably got about 30 to 40 still are carded original Star Wars figures from the 80s. A lot of original Ninja Turtle figures still carded. So those are real hot. And I also have a lot of autograph stuff, which a lot of autograph horror film stuff, and that goes over real well as well.
That's very cool. And as far as the paranormal, what are you doing these days, touring or all of that stuff? What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm still one of the tour guides for Troy's Alton Hauntings tours. I've been doing that for, actually, this will be my 12th year now. And so I got a few more tours this summer. Got one tonight. And then obviously in the fall, we hit it hot and heavy. Still doing investigations and actually working on my 5th book right now. So hope to have it out next year.
Awesome. And where do people find you?
They can find me on Facebook. If you just look up my name, Luke Naliborski. We have a paranormal page for me, and all my paranormal stuff's on there that people can see what I got going on, where I'm speaking, or when my tours are, and things like that. If they want to check out my store, it's on Facebook at I Had That Toy, all one word. The logo's black, white, and red. You'll see a finger pointing at you. And anytime I get new toys in the shop, I always post photos. And a lot of people, I'll send stuff. If somebody wants to order something, I can mail it to them. So, yep.
You rock. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Now I'm talking to Rob Garcia, and I actually met Rob Garcia 3 years ago, maybe. I was in Kansas City for Kansas City Paracon, and our buddy Denise Sia invited me to Alexander Major's house, and that's where I met Rob, and he was kind of helping Denise tour me around and doing some cool, nerdy investigation stuff. And this is the first time I've seen him at the Haunted America Conference. So tell us what you're doing here at the conference.
Well, I'm here to represent my co-owned historical landmark, the 1858 Garnett House Hotel in Garnett, Kansas. Kind of help put the word out about, the history of the place, the availability of private paranormal investigations, and some of the haunting type stuff that goes on there.
And what is just some of the history of the house? And this is a relatively new journey for you, right?
Yeah, I've been a paranormal investigator for quite a few years, over a decade, and I wanted something kind of tangible that I could own and kind of restore and take my history education to the next level. So the Garnett House is actually an 1858 Old West boarding house, which boasted up to 15 hotel rooms at one time in its heyday. And a lot of famous Old West lawmen would come through there and stay, like Bat Masterson, Wyatt Earp, Buffalo Bill Cody, Wild Bill Hickok, Belle Starr, rumored Jesse James, even rumored that Harry Houdini and his wife stayed there at its very end of its run as a hotel. And there's been other things too, like a school, rumored a brothel in Prohibition era, and then it was a doctor's office for husband and wife doctors from the 50s all the way up to present time.
Very cool. So where can people find you online and all that?
To find out about the hotel, you can go to www.1858hotel.com, and you can find out about the history there a little bit, and you can find out about different things we have going on, and also book a private investigation there if that's something you're interested in. We also have a church that we just came into ownership for. It's a little bit south of Garnett in a town called La Harpe. We're calling it the 1904 Church. We've been investigating it for a while, and then we decided to go ahead and take ownership of it. And you can book that as well through the hotel website. Eventually it'll have its own Facebook, social media, all that stuff. But right now it's still in development.
Well, you rock. Nice to see you again.
You too.
Sherri Brake of Haunted Heartland Tours.
Things have been busy for me. I own Haunted Heartland Tours. This is the 17th year. And I do ghost hunts in 7 different states and doing trips to Ireland and Scotland, just like we did last year. As a matter of fact, I have a sold-out tour in September going to Ireland and Scotland with me, 42 Trusting Souls, which is going to be a blast because we do places like Edinburgh Castle and Stirling Castle and take a boat ride across Loch Ness and all that stuff. So that's fascinating to go over there and share the history with everybody. Been working on books. I've got 8 books out now with 2 more coming out of the chute. The next one is going to be called Dowsing for Ghosts and Graves, and it's going to be the use of dowsing rods to find energy and to find lost objects and to find your septic tank and your water line and all these practical applications, plus the more spiritual and the more metaphysical uses of dowsing rods. You can find unmarked graves. So that's lots of cool things that you can do. So I've been pretty busy. We're building a house in West Virginia, and I just became a grandmother, and, lots of things.
A new journey for you.
It is a new journey for me, so I can't wait to buy my little granddaughter her first EMF meter. I might wait till she's about 2, because it'll end up in the toilet or something, I'm sure. But I really enjoy coming here to Troy Taylor's conference in Alton and being here with like-minded individuals, and spoke this morning at 9:00, packed room, everybody. The energy was just great.
What did you speak on this morning?
It was called Stones and Bones. It was kind of a worldwide trip exploring haunted cemeteries, creepy cemeteries, funny epitaphs that people would write on their gravestone, like "I told you I was sick." and all kinds of crazy things. So people are fascinated with headstones and the stories that they tell and the symbolism behind them. So it was fun to talk about that, and lots of laughter in the crowd this morning as we flipped through some of the slides and
that's good because you had everybody early.
I did, and I had a little too much espresso this morning. I felt like I was going to bounce off the stage. But it was nice. I don't think there was only 2 or 3 people that fell asleep, so that's okay. I know who they are, so I'll get them later.
Give them a test.
Yeah, that's right. But this is a great event to come to. This was number 22. Number 23 is next year, same weekend in June, and I hope folks will come on out to it and do some of the ghost hunts and check out the speakers and the vendors and all that it has to offer.
Cool. And where do people find you and your site?
HauntedHistory.net. HauntedHistory.net. That would be me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for it. Thanks for coming
and shoving a microphone in your face. I'm talking to Darla of Darla Tours, and I don't know anything about Darla Tours, and she's here, has a table, just 2 tables down from me, and I wanted to see kind of what Darla Tours is about.
Sure. My name's Darla Moore. We're out of Columbus, Ohio. We've been in business now about 5 years. We specialize in unusual group tours. It's not your grandma's get on a bus type tour. It's tours where people have special interests, and we get together and go someplace really cool. I've been working before with Sherri Brake and taking some of her guests along. We've done Ireland and Scotland for a few years now. We go visit haunted locations, paranormal locations. I know the owner of Leap Castle, for just to drop a name, I guess. Very cool guy. Not only does he own the most haunted castle in Europe, but he's also a world-known pipe player.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what we do. We get together, go places, have fun.
So this goes way beyond just paranormal and ghost tours.
It does. I have the Crypt and Crawl series, which are kind of shorter trips that hit big locations but hit more lesser-known sites, not just the big touristy things, but things that might be more paranormal. But then I also have Travel Buddies, which is another series of the trips. They're a little longer, and we go, like, I've got an Iceland one coming up, and you go camp out in Reykjavik. and take day tours out according to what you're interested in. So not everybody will be doing the same thing. There are the like the Witchcraft Museum that's up in northern Iceland that you could go to, or well, there's the Penis Museum, which is an option, I guess. It's an option. It's an option. But then there's also history sites that you could go or hike the glaciers. But then we're there as a group, so I get that little bit of special pricing break for my guests. And you have a little bit of camaraderie. Like if you want to go to supper, you have somebody to go with and not feel like you're out someplace strange by yourself.
So you have to really like traveling.
I do like traveling, yeah. Former career as a middle school teacher. So
I'm a middle school teacher. We have so many middle school teachers in this room right now. Do you realize that?
That's an odd coincidence. But yeah, and I would do the 7th grade tours. And I thought, well, how much fun would it be if you could do adult trips that would do this, you know, still have a fun time. And so, yeah, that's how I got into this.
Very cool. Where does everybody find you online?
You can find me online at darlatours.net. Pretty easy. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram as Glablam.
Awesome, you rock.
Thank you. Thank you.
April Slaughter.
Last year, but just everything that you've got going on right now.
Yeah, things have kind of taken off since last year. I've, wanted to get more into the artwork and also not so much focused on everything ghosts, but more just about the dead in general. So like the history and kind of I got sort of enthralled with cemeteries and the history of funerals. And so, the dead have kind of consumed my interests this year. And I kind of wanted to explore all of those things, whether it's in art or writing or even just coming to the conference and talking to people about those things. So it's been fun.
And is this a new book, or did you have this book last year? Reaching Beyond the Veil?
Yeah, that book has actually been out for several years. It's interesting to me that people are still really gravitating toward it. The new book is called Disconnected from Death,
that you've done with Troy Taylor.
Yes, and it's the subtitle is The Evolution of Funerary Customs and the Unmasking of Death in America. So that was a lot of fun to work on with him, and we're very proud of how it came out.
And you've designed a lot of his book covers, haven't you? I've always heard that.
Yeah, for the last several years, I've probably designed now at least 70 book covers for Troy. I also do a lot of that for Rosemary and Guiley as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I know who to bug when I finally decide to put together a book of some sort.
Absolutely. You can bug me anytime. I'd be happy to work on something for you.
So where can we find you?
You can find me Facebook, all the regular, social medias, Instagram, Twitter, but my website is aprilslaughter.com.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much. Cool.
Maria Miller of Haunted Atchison, Kansas.
Sure, we're here promoting Haunted Atchison. So we offer year-round overnight stays at the Sally House, which is probably our most famous haunted location. Stephanie here recently purchased the McIntyre Villa and is using it for paranormal tourism and overnights. We do have a full haunted season, all run through Visit Atchison. So we have everything from history mystery walking tours to haunted history trolley rides, paranormal investigations, ghost hunts, cemetery tours, you name it. And this year we're pretty excited because we're doing a series of special events. So we're bringing in a couple more well-known people in the field and having them come to Atchison and host some paranormal events and do different activities. So we're excited.
Cool. Where is Atchison in Kansas? How far from Kansas City is Atchison?
Sure. We are 45 minutes north of downtown Kansas City, right on the bluffs of the Missouri River.
Where do we find you online?
You can find us at visitatchison.com.
You rock.
You rock.
My buddy Kari Bergen of Ephemera, Obscura.
It's very cool. She's been so busy this whole conference selling things left and right. And so I'm going to let Kari talk to you about some of the work she does. And she also just won this fabulous item that she was really, really wanting at our raffle. So she'll need to tell you about that too.
My name is Kari Bergen. I am the owner and operator of EphemeraObscura.com, which is a collection of antique and vintage ephemera, postcards, photographs. And I'm here with my table of art today at the Haunted America Conference. I'm selling assemblage art and mixed media pieces of shadow boxes and jewelry, all kinds of stuff. I try to make use of found components and sort of bring history to life using little bits of ephemera that might have otherwise been lost and tie them together to tell a story.
And no two things are the same. All unique, all original, kind of found art type of stuff.
Absolutely. All of them are absolutely one of a kind. I can spend anywhere from a day to months or years working on a piece, waiting for just the right components to show up and finish the story.
You can tell that thought and energy has gone behind everything on this table. It's pretty cool. I'll have to take a picture of it before I leave and maybe put it in the show notes. So tell us about was it a half mourning dress?
Yes, it was a Victorian half mourning dress. It was black and it has some polka dots on it, and that's something that you might wear when you're past your first 6 months of mourning, and you're allowed to start adding in a little bit of white or other colors into the style of your dress. And I'm pretty excited about that because I've been giving a talk on Victorian mourning, and I plan on wearing that maybe in a future talk, so it should be fun.
It was meant to be, but you also had a lot of tickets you put in there.
Well, I had tickets for both me and my mom, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I was very happy for you that you got it. It's nice to talk to you again, and I hope people check out the site, and you're probably going to be here next year, I'm assuming, because you're here all the time.
Be here next year. I wouldn't miss this event. It's the highlight of my year. And if you're in the Chicago area, you can also catch me at the Chicago Oddities Expo on August 21st.
Awesome. This will be out before then, so people can come check it out. You rock. Thank you.
Thanks.
This next one is interesting. The table right across from me in the vendor room was Albert Kelchner, who owns a place called Willow Creek Farm. Our conversation is about 11 minutes long, and then we'll finish up our interviews with one of the more popular speakers from the conference over the years, Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Okay, here's Albert Kelchner. His place and what he does is unique compared to other haunted locations, and I'm going to let him tell you about what Willow Creek Farm is. And here we go. Al.
Hi, Patrick. How are you? Thanks for taking some time to visit with me. Willow Creek is like other hauntings, but there are a few things that make it different or unique. Probably the first thing is it's my full-time private residence. I've owned it I'm going on my 11th year. I invite the general public to visit for a couple hours, an overnight stay, or even a weekend. It's not a commercial venture, and there's no charge to visit. So that's one thing that sets it apart. It's also the entire farm is haunted. It's not just a single structure like most other hauntings, and it's an intelligent haunting. We really don't believe there's any residual energy. It's been reported by multiple mediums over the years that there are 7 to 8 known spirits who've actually been identified, although interestingly, none have any historical connection to the property. And it's also supposed to be on a ley line, which is one of the explanations that there can be, as reported, up to 25 to 30 passing through at any given time. It is on Spring Valley Road, out in the country, in huge farming country, northwestern Illinois. And Spring Valley Road was aptly named. There are lots of springs, and we know that water seems to have an attraction for spirits, if in fact we believe that spirits are energy, and water has energy molecules that can be absorbed. It's also on limestone, which is really quartz, so there's another source of energy. And I think I just said, too, I haven't researched this. I'm told it's on a ley line. So all those things contribute to a pretty active haunting. There's also, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the house that's haunted. The barn, I had to tear it down for structural reasons a couple of years ago, but that was very active, very haunted. Not good energy either, too. It was negative for the most part, based upon reports by people, investigating teams, who spent time in the barn recording. The machine shed is haunted. That started to occur after I got a clawfoot tub, which I just moved into the house. renovating the first floor bathroom, so we'll see if anything happens in the house now in addition to what normally goes on in there, any more mischief. Native American presence is huge. It's the territory of Black Hawk. In fact, there are several skirmishes. They're called battles. They're really more like skirmishes within a 15-mile radius. People have reported hearing when they've camped outside, because they let people camp out if they want, pitch a tent. And they've reported hearing drumming and Native American chanting. But that's not just a Willow Creek Farm story. Within several miles of the farm, there are cabins for weekend getaways. And the owners and I have met and talked, and they've told me that guests of theirs, when asked how their weekend stay was, report that it was really relaxing, very beautiful, nice to be out in the country for the weekend, away from the city. But it was kind of strange because they woke up in the middle of the night to hear drumming and chanting coming from the fields beyond the cabins. And then I think the most significant difference that separates this from other hauntings, within my first month of living there, two very gifted mediums told me that there was a woman in the house from the 19th century who died somewhere between the age of 32 and 34, and her daughter is a 4-year-old named Lily and a 10-year-old named Mary. And they described these three entities, these three people, in great detail, including Sarah. And the punchline, which I learned several years later, is that this woman and the two girls are my wife and my daughters from a previous life in the 19th century. And if that sounds crazy, put yourself in my place. It was really difficult for me to wrap my brain around, but there have been multiple things over a decade, reports that substantiate that, almost identical. The only difference is in the level of detail of what's reported. And then there are physical manifestations, including full-bodied apparitions that I haven't seen, but other people have seen, and in describing them, they're exactly what these two mediums told me in my first couple of months at the farm as far as physical appearance. I've been touched, and I had a sense. You know when it's a female or a male presence. I've had the sense of a strong female presence. I've had a sense of a connection, like connecting with a long-lost friend. A sense of really a deep love. I've been touched. I've been hugged. People have heard Lily, when we're in a small group talking, Lily say, "Daddy, Daddy." Another example would be a group was down within the past 4 years it was. They were upstairs in the master bedroom, and they were talking with Sarah, and they asked, "How do you feel about Al?" And the EVP they captured was the voice of a woman, moderate volume, saying very quickly, "I love him." So it's still surreal to me, but it is my world. I had a choice to dismiss this as all just craziness, my imagination, or to accept it as real, and I've accepted it based upon my personal experiences and the experiences of others over the years, which continually one experience reinforces the other. Some of it, you might say, was a bleed-off, where someone heard stories from other people's visits, and that's certainly possible. However, there are other reports by people where they knew nothing about the subject matter, and were still reporting what other people had said in previous years. So I think it is different. It's a haunted location, but there's things that make it unique.
Now, you and I have chatted a little bit, and I've read some of your material that you've given me, and you're kind of particular about who might come out maybe, and maybe what their intentions are. So can you clarify who is it that needs to find, like, what kind of person might want to reach out and get connected with you to visit Willow Creek Farm?
Well, my belief system has evolved over the past decade of living there. And what was once very frightening to me is no longer frightening. I think I have a better understanding through my own personal experiences and observing and hearing about other people's personal experiences at the farm, but even away from the farm. And so I've come to the conclusion of a few things. And I'll quote Andrea Perron from House of Darkness, House of Light, The Conjuring. And Andrea says, we don't die, we transform. I fully believe that. I've come to the conclusion that there is a higher power. The general term is God, and this higher power goes by other labels as well. The great creator in a Native American community, and in other belief systems, different names. But it's still the concept of something that's supremely intelligent and generally supremely benevolent. So I accept that as a matter of fact. The second thing, I accept that we don't die, we transform. There is life eternal that's promised in the Bible and in other belief systems throughout history. And what supports that somewhat is 8th grade history, when we're told that energy could be created and altered but not destroyed. So why should we believe that when our physical body stops functioning, that's it, it's over? I don't think it is. I
don't think you'll have argument from anybody who listens to my podcast.
Yeah, probably not. I'm preaching to the choir on that one, aren't I? Yes. But I also have come to the conclusion that I accept and embrace reincarnation. I'm not fully sure what it's about. I have my own concepts that can't be proven or disproven. Of course, everything I'm telling you can't be proven or disproven necessarily. It's all subjective. But I think reincarnation is a part of the equation. And so with these basic principles, there is a higher power. We don't die. We transform. We reincarnate. I'm interested in people who have gotten beyond the, oh, it's scary, oh, it's demonic. I want to reach those people. I'm not sure that I can. I also am not particularly interested in people who are strong skeptics. I think a dose of skepticism is very healthy and important. I always question things that happen to me at the farm, and sometimes there's a logical explanation. But I especially want to avoid people that see this as some connection to their 15 minutes of fame, or they think it's great adventure amusement park. It isn't. For me, it's deeply spiritual. So I don't care if someone wants to visit and they don't believe, because I've had that occasion where a family came. They were curious because they watched all the ghost shows on TV, and they really didn't believe. But when they left, they were profoundly and deeply changed by the experiences they had there. And that's what I want. I just want people who are open-minded enough to accept the possibility of something different than some of the common things you see on TV or things that are written. Things like, oh, they're stuck. No, they're not stuck. They're there by choice. So I'm looking for people with an open mind who are willing to expand their current belief system.
Where can people find you online?
Best thing to do, I have a Facebook page. I did have a website that was hacked a couple months ago.
That's the second time I've heard this today.
Well, it was the hackers were from Algeria, some freedom fighting squad. So I thought, oh, that's a big sign there. I better I'm not going to rebuild that website. But I still have a Facebook page, so you can look for the page. It's Haunted Willow Creek Farm on Facebook, one word. And you can write to me at hauntedwillowcreekfarm@yahoo.com if you're interested in more information or a visit.
You rock. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And, of course, our friend and previous guest, Rosemary Ellen Guiley.
I just wanted to give you a chance to maybe talk a little bit about what you were speaking about today, and just kind of what an update on what you've been doing in the last year and some things coming up.
Sure. Well, my topic today was strange experiences with strange creatures and entities, and it was a compilation of some of the weirdest cases that I've encountered in UFOs, hauntings, curses, and cryptids from some of the book projects I've worked on. But where the real action for me is this year is the after-hours events, the reunions with the dead. And so last night I did the black mirror scrying for contacting the dead. They're just gazing into a black mirror. And tonight I'm doing a ritual supper, which is called the Dumb Supper. And
that is fascinating.
It's a remembrance ritual. It's a very powerful experience. I love coming to this event, Haunted America, because it's dynamic every year. Even though many people come every year, it's dynamic, and there's always high energy, and it's always a lot of fun.
Can you go in just a little bit about the Dumb Supper and kind of what that... Does that go back to Victorian times?
Nobody knows how old the Dumb Supper is. The earliest reference I've seen to it in literature comes from the 1600s. But it did become popularized in the 1800s, but it was a divination ritual for young women to learn the names of their husbands. And now in modern times, since about the mid-20th century on, it's been turned into a remembrance dinner for the dead.
That's what I thought was cool when people have already been talking about it for tonight. And I kept saying, well, I thought that was to figure out who your future loved one was. So I didn't know about this. Yeah.
If you haven't got your love, we'll do that too, because the dead know everything. But no, that's how it started. And so young women would set a midnight dinner and leave a space for the dead. And then hopefully the dead who were believed to know the future would come and eat the meal with them, partake in the meal, and in return reveal the names of their future husbands. Because that was, of course, the number one concern for young women in earlier times was getting married. So it was a very important ritual. And we mix up the dinner. That is, we start with dessert and end with appetizer. The place settings are reversed. The meal is eaten without talking, although I do play a soundtrack in the background, which is songs that encourage remembrance. We have an altar set up, and so it's a sacred space for people to feel very close to their dead loved ones, and for many people, a very powerful experience.
I love it. That's fascinating. And I finally got a black mirror from you this year. I've been wanting to get one for 3 years and just never have. So I look forward to giving that a try, and they're beautiful. Tell us where we can find you again.
My website is visionaryliving.com, and I do have black mirrors for sale on my website. If you go right now, you would find it saying out of stock. I just got a new stock in, so they will be available within the next week. And I'm also a publisher. I have over 30 titles published through my publishing company, and that's visionarylivingpublishing.com. You can also visit that site. A lot of my books there. Exciting authors who've written cutting-edge books about topics of interest in the paranormal and metaphysical world.
You rock. Thank you again. It's always nice to talk to you.
Well, likewise, Patrick. So good to see you again this year.
You too. Thank you. By the way, thanks to Rosemary, I've had dumb suppers on the brain this week. I've read about them before, but now that I know they're now more commonly used as a way to remember loved ones, I totally need to dive back into the subject. I wasn't able to attend the Dumb Supper at the conference, so if you were lucky enough to be a part of it, please stop by the Big Seance Parlor on Facebook and let us know how it went. Well, I hope you enjoyed my coverage of the Haunted America Conference for this year. If you weren't able to make it, hopefully I brought a little bit of the conference to you through your earbuds. And many thanks to Troy and Lisa Taylor for allowing me to bring these highlights to you. They put on some really great events. And I look forward to reading Troy's new book with April Slaughter, Disconnected from Death, The Evolution of Funerary Customs and the Unmasking of Death in America, which just landed on my doorstep, actually. Thank you to the following super paranerds who support the show at patreon.com/bigseance. Bianca Roth, Kim Robb, Jim Budd, David Rubenstein, Josiel Lorenzo, Amy Gedicke, and Susan Davey. My supporters at the parlor guest level, who can be found at bigseance.com/parlorguests,
are Bruce Williams, Christopher Kohler, Carbon Lilies, Denicia, Anna Frias, Norman and Linda Keller, and Karen Prine. Thanks, everyone. You rock. For show notes, including links to anything we may have mentioned in this episode, visit bigseance.com. You can find and subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and just about anywhere podcasts are found. Do you have any comments or feedback? Go to bigseance.com/feedback to learn how to get your voice in a future show. Or you can call my feedback line, 7755-TELL-ME. That's 775-583-5563. Interested in learning how to promote and share the podcast? Go to bigseance.com/share. Thank you so much for listening. Unfortunately, it's time to blow the candles out, but we'll see you and light them again next time.